Hey, welcome to the Duke of Work podcast. Today we're talking to David Feldman. David is the founder and director of strategy at 3 Owl, an award-winning creative agency that creates websites that stand out from the noise. They work with companies like Mellow Mushroom, Great American Cookie Company, Vitalink, Taco Mac, and Wahoo. At the start of COVID-19, though, David had to fire 80% of his agency staff in one day. But despite the setback, he and his small team stayed on and never missed a deadline for their clients and continued to generate millions of dollars in added revenue for their clients. They also managed to grow 3 Owl, their company, by 20% each year since. And in 2021, David wrote the book Small by Design to teach and to pretty much lay out the groundwork and his frameworks of how to scale small businesses, all the while staying intentionally small. And he's on a mission to help fellow entrepreneurs and professionals stand out from the crowd. David, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
David, the title of your new book intrigues me for many reasons. Like, there's been a lot of popular books about the solopreneur, the company of one, starting small, but I think your emphasis is important of focusing on small teams to grow like big companies. Can you kind of give me like the premise as to what does it mean to you to be a small team? And then also, how do you operate or think you as you operate as a big company? And what does that feel like and look like?
Sure. And Ro, you really nailed it there. I had read Company of One and loved the book and realized it was much more for the solopreneur. So I saw an opportunity for a small teams book. So you caught it right off the cuff there. The impetus to write the book was right around the pandemic, mid-March. Two of our biggest clients came to me and said, we're considering firing our agencies of record and we want to work with you because we actually like that you're small. And it was
Hmm.
the first time I had two of our biggest clients come to me and actually celebrate the fact that we're a small company. And that when that happened, and I pretended to be bigger than I was for years up until that there was a point we weren't going into an office because nobody was, which made me really recalibrate. But I think after those conversations, I took a step back and really looked at what we were doing right and how we can celebrate being small and seeing that we were working with two Fortune 500 companies at our size. I really wanted to share what we did right and what we didn't do and really start to build a template around what we were doing, which to me, it required a lot of looking back at all the decisions we made, what was right, what was wrong, but also talking to a lot of other small team businesses outside of marketing to understand what they were doing. And I found a lot of similarities. And I talked to construction management, clinical research, augmented reality and events. So I really ran the gamut of the type of companies that I talked to, but they were all very proud to be small by design. And that overlap was really powerful. So the book is all about that. I bring in my experiences too, but I really focus on a lot of other industries. So the thesis really works across service industries in general.
I love that. Service in digital space or service mostly in physical, where the value transfer is a physical, tangible product, or is it mostly digital services?
I'd say B2B services was really what I focused on, clinical trials, construction management. A lot of that's not digital. The most important thing, all of them have an important people component, but it's more on
Yeah.
the B2B side than B2C side.
No, I love that. And I think going back to the early, even from your origin, I think you mentioned you try to look bigger than you were, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think that's also, I mean, in the beginning when I started a long time ago, it was that same feeling, even if it was two guys, and we wanted to have this presence because we didn't want the whole imposter syndrome. And I actually talked to another, she's like an agency, she has an agency, but similar patterns that when she revealed to her clients that they were a small team and that they as a small team needed to make this work with the relationship with the client work, like this was everything to them. It almost is appealing to the client is I really want to work with you because not only is like your livelihood on this, we're not just some other client that's going to be hit on the rosters on the side. So there is that balance to seeing on the other side of the fence what the client experience is and how they actually value that. Tell me a little bit more about that experience too. Like getting that feedback from your clients, liking that you were small. Was it because of your emphasis, your focus, and with the team? And if you don't mind me asking, how large is the team?
The team is, we have four core full-time employees and a team of 15 full-time-ish contractors. We're all senior
Mhm.
level folks. We're 15 to 20 people, but
Nice.
really we our payrolls for. And there's a lot of reason behind that and a lot of restructuring that happened in order to achieve that. I think what happened with these clients and why I have pretended to be big for so many years, I know the clients get excited to work with a small team off the bat because yes, your livelihood depends on it. But then there's the counterbalance of the fear of they're excited about the job, but can they get the job done? Will this
Mm,
team still be here? Like one of my clients very early on joked with me. My agency's called Three Owl, and she said, "What happened to one of the Three Owls leave?" Because we were small, and there's a concern that they'll pay you a lot of money and you can't make ends meet, and your agency goes under.
mm,
So I really there's this important focus on taking the "you're too small" off the table and actually celebrating the fact that you're small and you'll get the job done. So I talk about that a lot is demonstrate you're small, but also demonstrate that you're really stable and the client gets the best of both worlds. And that's what happened with those two clients. We were continuing to get the work done. We had our processes really down, and I'm really big on sharing every step of the process with our clients, who is working on what, just thinking through those touch points they don't get with a bigger company. I think they ended up wanting to move forward with us on those big projects because they could see we could execute and they weren't worried about 3L going under. There was a lot of stability we were able to demonstrate.
that is a pivotal point because you're also working with larger brands or bigger names really, and they do want that level of dependability because it looks bad on them. I've done some well, I've helped teams grow in agencies like that and done consulting around that. But I think that's the number one key thing of being transparent and that open communication with the client so that the client feels confident in the process. And I think that is one of the key important pieces, not only for client satisfaction, but also for lifetime value of that client. Is that do you focus primarily on ongoing projects with client and keeping them for years, or are you working on larger projects that have sunset time?
The ideal is do one project and then roll on to the next one. It's so much easier. And this is as you run a small business, pitching an existing client to do more work requires so much less time and so much less risk. You can bring on a smallish new client that demands a lot of your time and is a good fit. And that can really challenge a small agency. And we've had that happen before where everything's great, but we have one challenging client where it looked okay, but they're not the right fit. So I am really big on long-term client relationships. And I really start that conversation from the beginning, even referring to projects as phase one. So they know that phase two is coming up next and really try to think big picture, coming up with roadmaps. And that serves two purposes. If you're able to come up with a roadmap for your client, likely you're going to be around, you know what's coming or you know what's coming
Mhm.
up next and you demonstrate a lot of stability. But two, working towards something greater and setting those metrics can turn into multi-year, long-term projects, working with different departments. And they just know they can come back to you anytime. I had a client today that reached out. We're in the middle of a lot of work. And he said, we want to work on an intranet for our training. And I'm like, great, here's a lot of ways we can do this. And he knew to come to me because I'm always thinking next steps for them.
Mhm.
So I would encourage anyone to focus on the long term with a client because you got to be careful so you don't have half of your business coming from one client. But if you can really grow that relationship with a client and within more business units of that business, you can grow a lot more efficiently and not spend a ton on business development because a lot of what business development is getting rejected and putting in a lot of your very valuable hours to try to find work. Yeah, the long term is so important to us.
No, I love that. I found this to be true, and at least in my experience in the service-based digital economy. Usually the clients value the relationship with a founding member or the owner or the CEO because they're the artist, they're the go-to expert, they have that. Have you found that same balance to be true that everyone goes to you or your founders or your co-founders as the experts for sales strategies, for marketing strategies, and just having that sales conversation with you directly as opposed to needing a sales team?
They love that. Uh, I think for any business owner, you also have to realize that you're a finite resource when it comes to being able to talk to all your clients as well as
Yep.
sell and also think about the business. I have intentionally built in some layers between me and the client, but that's actually served us really well. Because
Mm.
before that, I'd have a client come to me and say, "Hey, there's this button I'm clicking and it's not going to the right link. Dear
Yeah, I
founder,
mean,
please fix that." So that was challenging. Now, when I do come in, it's special. The founder's coming in to talk to us. And I'm always available. I tell all of our clients, you have standing calls with our team. If you ever want me on it, I'm there. So it actually makes me look more available and they appreciate that they're not coming to me for the small tasks. but it makes those the quarterly meetings I have with them, the times I come in for a conversation, that much more important. And it also, because I have more time, I actually appear more available because I'm not working on the small stuff, but I try to make it a point if they want to talk to me, within a day or two, I'm available, giving them a lot of times, which they won't get from a big agency. So it's a double-edged sword. But if you can build that balance where your client talking to you is something they feel like is a huge value add, I definitely align with you on that.
And it's also just knowing that I have access to you. Not that I need it, but just knowing is the value add
Exactly.
and that direct access.
You should never appear aloof. You're always there for them. They're your lifeblood. But at the same time, they love having people who will respond to an email in an hour or two. And they know that we have those people on our team for them.
Yeah, that's key information now. We'll get to one simple question that I want your perspective on, then we'll switch more about the book and your launch, which congratulations, by the way. So there's a term in the marketplace right now. I see a lot of businesses of one, solopreneurs being a trend. There is that startup scale up phase and the mid enterprise phase of businesses. But then what is the name that you would give small businesses, teams 5 to 20 who are doing the work you're doing? It's no longer the solo founder doing all the work. Like I've done a case study on I won't name the name here, but design work, does everything himself, but he works crazy hours, doesn't want to hire a team. So there's that extreme. And then there's also the other extreme of you going full agency and expanding the business and not being available. What would you call your business type in as you observe in the marketplace?
I would still consider us, if you compare us to a huge company, I would just consider us an agency. We're a company versus a solopreneur. And I think a big part of that is, even if I was a company of one or two, I think the distinguishing factor is we've got our processes, we've got our values. It's the same productized. So I feel like even if you are a company of one, and this is the argument in that book, is if you've got your systems, your values, your ongoing cadences of communication, that a contractor and solopreneur term has almost a negative connotation.
Yeah.
So for us, like, it's not really a matter of size. It's much more a matter of systems, processes, and they feel like they're coming to, even if it was two people, they share the same culture, same beliefs, same experiences versus I'm talking to David versus I'm talking to this other dude who happened to be in the same room. So you can build a company of 10 people that doesn't feel like a company if it's really disjointed. So I'm proud that I don't feel just like a contractor. And it was an interesting shift for me. I remember making a
Mhm.
hire and I thought I still kind of am a contractor initially because we didn't really have our values figured out and we were just flying by the seat of our pants. So I think it's once you start to really build those systems out, I just call us a company. And that I ultimately think that's from shared beliefs, shared core values, repeatable systems, et cetera.
No, I agree. I would healthily, though, I think disagree. There is something more here, in my opinion, because you actually have craftspeople in your team. You are actually known for your trade. Because if you're a solopreneur, solo art, I call them solo artists, where they go to you because you have an expertise that no one, it's really hard to replicate. But at scale, you can't really service 30 or 50 people, for example. But also when you get too big, because I've had the opportunity to see small teams, large teams, really big teams, and working, helping them grow. I think there is something special here. Maybe we don't have to name it on this call here, but there is something special of having 3 hour full, like you said, four founding members or four team, like four craftspeople and also senior level to getting that level of expertise and being a tight unit where we know that everything that we ship is going to have high quality. I don't think just calling it a company or a small team is, there's something else there that I think will really distinguish it from the marketplace. Because if I'm a buyer and I'm looking at, do I hire this agency that I know it's going to cost me $250,000 or whatever over the lifetime? Or do I hire this one freelancer? Or where do I go here for, a craft team that I know is going to deliver and have an amazing experience? I think there's something that's a huge gap in the marketplace right now. And I think naming it would be a kind of interesting to see where that goes.
The simple answer to that is it's a small by design team, and that's what we call
Yeah.
ourselves. And
But
I've seen that once after the book came out, our team has really lived by that. And I see it in our proposals that I say we're right sized. You're paying for the work and you're not paying for the offices and all the health insurance. So I really celebrate the small by design out the gate and what they get with it. So that's definitely become a part of our culture in the way that we've shipped. See them repeating it back to us. So it's starting.
it's working. Cool. Let's shift gears quickly. You've recently launched your book. Your congratulations on being one of the top bestseller. And I know that's not easy the way that you did it. Instead of just buying lists and buying to be up there. If you talk to us a little bit more about that, but also like what's the next step? What is this book going to be used for? And what is your vision and what are you working towards with this book? What does it mean to even have a book for a business and why does that matter?
And look back at why I wrote the book, and this was, I alluded to it. It was after those initial client conversations where I knew that there was some sort of paradigm shift happening, that small was to be celebrated. Everybody was working remotely at that point. Nobody needed to come see my office to make sure that we were a stable company. So there were really two audiences here. One is all those folks that are running small businesses and need the competence to compete against the big guys. So it really is structured like a playbook. The emails I've gotten from people who bought it and said it impacted their business or made them think differently about a practice or just gave them that extra push that they needed. I love that. So that's part of it. The other part is, and we're doing this now, as we're pitching new clients, as we're in a consideration set during the RFP process, having the book is a really big deal.
Mhm.
Again, I will proudly say, here's our team size, here's how we're structured, here's what's different. Again, it's taking that you're too small off the table, but actually celebrating the fact that we're small. So I'm trying to really change that conversation from day one and saying, y'all did it right. Y'all found a team that's small that's going to really change the way you think about the work. Here's a book that goes with that. It's a bestseller. It really has all of our practices, and we really practice what we preach in the agency every day. So whether they read it or not, I don't know, but the credibility is really important. And I really hope that if a CMO at a big company reads it, they'll feel more confident to hire other small agencies. So it
Mhm.
goes beyond 3 L getting hired. I really want to start just changing that mindset that going with small independent B2B companies can make a really positive impact for the folks who hire them.
And that's it, trying to create or being part of that wave, that movement, and adding that fuel for small indie. I like that term. Tell me a little bit more about like we were talking before. You were mentioning what's the next goal for the book? Is it a platform for you? Is it a platform for the team? It sounds like it's a platform for the movement of shifting gears towards being open to hire small indie teams. So tell me a little bit more about that thought process and what you're deciding to do.
Yeah, I think it's become a part of our company's culture. So it's aligned to what our hiring looks like. We
Hmm,
also recently got
interesting.
partially acquired and joined a group of 15 other small boutique agencies. So we all have a holding company, even though they have a minority stake in all the companies. So that's like truly the epitome of small by design is 15 super specialized companies working together who all have all-star teams. So I think that also is a part of this whole platform is we're small by design. We're part of a network that's small by design that can make major impact. So I'm seeing it as that really important conversation starter to start the movement. I'm getting opportunities to speak about the book itself, which is great. Like I'm excited that it's helping other young business owners continue to grow, but ultimately it's really just continuing that movement. And I hope it's not just 3 Owl that benefits from it. I'd love other small businesses to be benefiting from this approach.
Absolutely. That's pretty awesome. And that network too of small, specialized, you know what you're getting, but you're getting probably the best in the industry there. Unique outcome. David, for all of our audience here, what's the best place for people to one, go to thank you for this episode and two, learn a little bit more about what you're up to?
If you want to check out my agency, it's 3owl.agency. And if you want to check out the book, smallbydesign.co, and it has links to anywhere you can purchase it.
Cool. Put those links in the show notes. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.